talking about your hackerspace.
Okay.
How long have you guys been?
So Syn Shop has been around since 2012. Originally, we started in my garage. Basically, we had been meeting for almost a year, talking about, oh yeah, we need to make a hackerspace, and it was like maybe half a dozen of us. And it wasn't until me and my roommate went and visited like some of the other spaces, and we were sitting talking after that, and I was like, I have a garage full of tools. It wouldn't take that much effort to clean it up and make it usable, and we'll just make that the space and start off that way. And when we did, then like people came out of the woodwork, and we grew and were more and more people. Eventually, one of our members, he moved into a new house that had this big pole barn in the back, and we kind of forcefully took that over for our meeting up. And we were fortunate that there's a thing called the Downtown Project where they're revitalizing downtown Las Vegas. And so we were able to get a space at like an insanely cheap price through them. And that kind of allowed us to get our first commercial space, and then we grew a lot faster. So it was from having like maybe a dozen or two people to having almost 100 people. We were there for like 3 years, and starting to had been outgrowing that space for a while, and there was issues with the area that wasn't really conclusive to what we wanted, like parking and safety and stuff. So we started looking for our own space, and we found this space here in Henderson. And since we had the other space for really cheap, it allowed us to build up our savings, and so we could pay for a year up front here, and you'll be amazed at how many landlords will want to talk to you when you can just afford to pay a year, because otherwise we're not really your typical business, so they don't really know how to deal with you. And so that helped grease the wheels kind of and get us up and running. But we've been here a couple of years, so 2012 to now.
And about how many members do you have for the space?
We're usually a bit over 100. So I think the last count was 103. I've seen it go up to like 115, but it hasn't really dropped under 100 since we've been here. So.
All right. And what all is membership like? Is it a tiered system? Is it a 24-hour access for everybody, or that kind of information?
So for our membership is it's $50 a month, and that gets you access to the space during our open hours. So we're open each weeknight from 6 to 10 p.m. and then on Saturdays from 3 to 10. We also have a vetting process. It's basically after you've been a member for a while and get to know people and are trusted, then you get a key card for 24/7 access. But part of having that key card is you're also expected to do more for the space. So help keep it open, help run classes, clean, there's any number of things that you can do to help out hackerspace. And we don't require any specific thing. We just want you to be a bit more involved. That also gives you voting rights in the actual corporation. So we're a 501c3, so we have a board of directors. We meet once a month and do all the stuff you have to do to run a nonprofit. So the voting members in that nonprofit are vetted members.
Okay, and then how are the tools handled? Are they space owned, or are some of them membership?
The tools are all the space owned. So we initially had where some people would like loan tools for extended periods of time, and some of those we actually put money in to like fix those tools and make them better, and then they decide, oh well, we want our tools back, and it's caused issues. Or you have the issue where, oh well, this is my thing, and I don't want just anyone using it. So, access to the tool was a problem, and therefore it was just taking up space in the shop. So we prefer that if you want to bring a piece of equipment down, that you give it to the shop, and be under the expectation that it will likely get broke. Hopefully it doesn't. But you have a bunch of people in varying skill levels that are using the equipment. So stuff breaks, we fix it. Sometimes it takes a bit to fix it because we're dealing with limited budget and time, and so it's a priority where is the particular priority at the time. We prefer to do that route as far as tools. As far as use of the tools for members. Basically, to use the tools here, you have to be a member. If you just want to come down and hang out, then that doesn't cost you a dime. We, in fact, encourage people to come down and check out the space before necessarily signing up. I mean, some people, they see Hackerspace and immediately sign up, which is great. We're mostly funded by membership, so that helps us out. There's certain tools that there's a specific class on the tool, like the shop bot or anything in the metalworking or the welding areas that you have to get checked out on those individual tools, either because the tool is very expensive or very dangerous or likely both. And then there's others like the woodworking area where we just have a general shop safety class that kind of takes you through all the woodworking stuff. And then there's some other things where it's not really a class per se, but like with the laser cutter, it takes about 15 minutes to teach someone how to use the laser cutter, so we just handle that as a case-by-case basis. There's other things like cordless drill you don't really have to be checked out on or anything like that. So we tend to trust the members, and you expect that if you don't know how to use something that you go and get help, and people are pretty good about that. So.
And speaking of classes, do you do education for non-members, like classes for...
Yeah, so our classes are all through our meetup group, so meetup.com/Syn Shop. And we offer a number of classes, so classes will have their own pricing. So if the class has materials that are required for it, then that is included in the price. And then Syn Shop has just a $10 per student fee to cover like our operational costs. So like for example, we're doing a kit of a Lanium's Geiger counter kit. We're doing this tomorrow actually. So that I was able to actually get the kit for a discount, so the price that you pay for the kit is actually not really more than if you just bought it directly, but part of that discount goes towards our operational cost. Other kits we can't get a discount, so it might be $10 more or $15 more if there's other stuff we have to get for the class. We also have a number of classes that are free. So quarterly we run a thing called the Crypto Party, which is basically a class series dedicated towards getting people that may not be familiar with like information technology and privacy concerns and safety on the internet and all that, is getting basically your layman up to speed so they can use the computer and use it safely and know what things they have to worry about online. We have other things like there's a Friday talk thing that's called the Fozzie Hour, where just a random shop member will decide, hey, I want to present an hour on this topic. And we've had anything from nuclear physics to the little gel pack capsules made from placenta. I mean, it's wide gamut of things, but it's interesting because it's a member presenting on something that they're familiar with, and that's a free thing to come down and check out.
And do you do discounts for students or veterans or seniors or?
No, we don't. We only really have the one pricing level, so we opted to go for a lower tiered pricing level instead of having to deal with like okay, well, if you're this type of member, you pay this, and if you're this, you that. And it's just easier from an administrative standpoint to just go with a base price. We do, like, if you're a member, you can bring a couple guests with you, and they can help you on your project. But you kind of have to be the primary person using the tools, etc. And there's the if you're not actually using our tools, you can just come down and work on things. So if all you're doing is like knitting something or working on your laptop, then you might not even need to have a membership. You can just come down.
All right, and you expressed that you favor hackerspace over makerspace. Is there a particular reason for that?
The thing with the makerspace versus hackerspace is makerspace almost softens the perception of it. The reason why I like hackerspace is because I do like to have at least a little edge to the space. I mean, we're not blowing up stuff in the parking lot, but the ring launcher, that's not your typical thing that people play with either. So I favor that more, and going toward the hacker ethic and whatnot, because we do have a lot of people in either computer security or various fields, like DEF CON, the computer security conference that's held here every year, not Syn Shop, but in Las Vegas. So I more favor going with the identifying with the hacker aspect versus the soften maker term. But yeah, I'll use both.
Right, and one of the things that has come up in the past when I've asked cases in other locations, what they would like to hear from other locations is how did they deal with burnout?
That's a tough issue. So, like us, for example, a lot of the people that are on the board of directors, we also do a lot of things, and basically our board of directors are just members that they pay a monthly dues as well, and so they're paying $50 a month to have essentially a second job. So the people have to be on the director, they got to be really passionate about the space. We do have annual elections to cycle people out. But then there's other positions like the, getting someone to run for treasurer. That's we've had the original treasurer because no one else will run for it. So, you'll run into the problem where trying to find people to put the effort in to run the space can be challenging at times.
All right. So, one of the other things about that is that you have a fair amount of turnover in members. Is there a way you guys manage to partition your membership responsibilities so the burden isn't heavily on any given group or person?
No, we don't really do anything with that. We just kind of work, and what we do has been working. We do have occasional members that could burn out and need to take a break for a while, and so, like, for example, with how we keep the space open, I recently reached out to the membership community and it's like, hey, we need more people to step up to watch the space, and a couple people have. Not as many as I'd like, but hopefully over time that'll correct itself. But
so this is like an attendant, somebody. It would essentially be like a staffed position.
Kind of. It's basically the person that they're responsible for keeping the shop open that night. So, if you get people from out of town or visitors or new people, they'll give them a tour of the space. If there's an emergency happens, they're the ones that need to, call 911 or make sure that whatever happened, whatever action needs to be taken, to make things safe and right, that happens. We also, for that reason, we prefer that we have at least a couple people to watch the shop each night. So it's not just one person here by themselves.
And that's a volunteer base, or
Yeah, it's all volunteer.
right? And you don't have any paid staff of any kind.
In fact, in our bylaws, we explicitly don't have paid anyone. So it does help on our taxes a lot. So once you start having employees, dealing with a 501c3 is a lot more complex, and there's more paperwork that you have to do. Any business really, but so that allows us to have a much simpler route on doing that, because we did all the required paperwork and legwork for that all ourselves. So there are like umbrella organizations where they kind of like, there's a master nonprofit, and then you'll have other groups that kind of fall under that, and then part of making that happens is you give them a bit like a percentage of your income or something, so they can pay lawyers and insurance and all that stuff. But we opted to kind of do it ourselves. So we found our own insurance, and did all the IRS paperwork, and waited forever because the IRS is slow. And,
Now, how do you handle the payments for classes and teachers? Do teachers get paid for the classes they run?
Teachers can. It's not often that teachers opt to. So a lot of the teachers opt to just teach the class, pro bono essentially, or for free, because they're doing it to help the space. But there are provisions in there where the teachers can, get a bit of money in, and we've had members that have help pay for their shop membership because they taught classes. But all our payments and whatnot are all done online, so we prefer to automate anything that we can, because having to do with like cash payments and stuff like that is a royal pain and a lot more work. You do pay like the credit card processing fees and stuff like that, but paying that is worth it than not having to have all the administrative overhead. I mean, because we all have full-time jobs. I work 10 hours a day, and then I come here and spend another 4 hours. So.
All right, and so like the last thing I usually try to leave there is there anything I haven't asked about that you feel needs to be talked about your space? Any tips or advice to spaces that are starting up or are currently existing?
Tips for starting out is, talk to other spaces. Pretty much every space I've talked to, like the people that run the space are more than happy to talk and give advice and stuff like that. There are I guess community resources as well. Like there's a Slack channel that has like a whole bunch of different maker spaces in it. And, that's good to look at as well, and you can ask for advice. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I actually don't really look at it at some point because I have so much other information overload that I just didn't have time, unfortunately. But there are a lot of other spaces that are on there. I keep more in touch with the spaces that are closer to me, like in California. We're good friends with 23B. We talk to HeatSync quite a bit. I think Null Space Labs, we talk to them. So we tend to try to, I guess, go in the regional community of hacker spaces, and that is actually really good because then you can also kind of collaborate sometimes. So like 23 will be throwing an event, and so they'll ping our group, and then we'll have some people come down to them, and that type of thing. So.
All right. So I think that's everything, unless you want to offer something more.
No, that's good.
All right.